is a Leonardo, new Leonardo. I was quite excited to try out, so I contacted Joost Appelboom. I said, could you lend me one? He said, pizzazz! And it was in the mail. This is, I think, a reasonably priced, as Italian pens go, a reasonably priced Leonardo. It is cartridge converter filled. It is, I find this a fairly pretty material with ruthenium trim, which is always fun. I'll show you, you get a better close-up when I tilt the camera down. And I think that one of the biggest selling points is that it is a cap and barrel that are flush, as opposed to the Momento Zero, which has a cap that sticks out a little bit. So something that Salvatore was trying to experiment with, I feel, and this is it. So we're going to talk about that pen, and I'll apparently do a writing sample, and at some point I suppose I'll tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it. Pretty much. Let's get started. Okay, so here we go with the Leonardo Supernova. Now, it was sent to me in this box, but this box says Momento Magico. It also says ink window, and it says, I mean, correct my Italian, but I'm assuming that finestra trasparente is a transparent window / ink window. And it says pistone. This is not a piston filler, so I'm happy to show you the box. I just don't think this is the box that goes with the pen. It has a bottle of ink, which is their blue, which is a really nice blue, but I'm not sure these pens are supposed to come in these boxes. What the hell, Joost? Sending me all this stuff to check out for free and get me the wrong box. No, I'm just joking. Okay, so this is the pen. Next, I am obviously really grateful. I have to say that because some people don't have a sense of humor, and then they contact me very angry and say, oh, but he sends you other stuff, you should not talk to him like that. No, I wasn't talking to him like that, it was a joke. Okay, here is this Leonardo Supernova next to a Pilot Metropolitan, so you get a bit of a size comparison. And the pens are available extra fine, fine, medium, broad nibs, 1.5mm stub, elastic, and then elastic and extra fine or fine. This happens to be an elastic fine. They're number 6 nibs. They are steel. This particular model, much like the Momento Zero, except this has a flush cap and barrel, like I said before, which is kind of nice. It also has a metal disc on the end of the barrel. I'll show you that close up in just a second, and it is cartridge converter filled. The price is 157 euros and 2 cents without VAT. Remember, you can get a 10% discount by clicking the Appelboom banner on my website. Okay, so what do we have? Let's look at the top of the pen. Finial, I think, quite nice. We have a Leonardo clip with the little roller, the little wheel, which I think is quite nice. This is a ruthenium trim, so it's a very dark metal, which I think is really quite nice, and I like this pattern in it a lot. It's a little trippy, but I really, really like this. I like this material. I think it's very attractive. Here we have a little metal ring, and then what looks to be a blind knob. I was thinking this was the same thing that you find on the Momento Zeros. There was a blind cap that you can unscrew and then operate the converter, but this is tight. You can't unscrew that. Then we have another ruthenium little metal disc there, which I think is quite nice. So unlike the Momento Zero, this is actually a flat top, right? And as you can see, cap and barrel flush. Now the downside to that flushness, I will zoom in a bit for this, is that this step down is pretty substantial, and that's the downside. If you want to have something flush, then that's kind of what has to happen, I guess. I'm not a pen maker, but I don't know how else you would do that. But again, I'm not a pen maker. You do get threads not sharp. The step down is sharp because, I mean, again, look at how big that is. The number 6 nib, italic here. This is the black coated nib, which matches the ruthenium trim and the rest of the pen. It does say elastic, and it does say F for fine somewhere there, in fact. And then you have the, I think it's an ABS feed they use, and of course you can unscrew the whole thing, and then you see, let me zoom out a little bit, then you see the converter. It's just a simple standard converter, but it is branded Leonardo, which I always think is a nice touch, right? Okay, the pen is, the pen is a nice size, certainly not super small, and if you want to, you can post it securely, and then you really have a nice size pen. Okay, you want to see how it writes, and I know that what you are particularly interested in is the elastic nib. Well, that's going to be interesting. So what do we have here? We have, yep, sorry for the skip, Leonardo Supernova with an elastic fine, and the ink is the one and only SBRE Brown. I thought that would be a nice match for the sort of caramel finish of this pen. Okay, without any pressure. Pen gets a little top heavy posted, but that's quite a lot of cap, right? I found it to be a fairly reliable writer. It seems to have dried a little bit in the current configuration. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Right now, as I uncapped, it seemed a little dry, but up to this point, it actually been quite wet. So I don't know if overnight it dried out a little bit. This is one of the black coated nibs, and I have found often that a black coated nib leads to the tipping also being coated, and that gives a little bit more feedback as you write. I don't necessarily hate that, I'm just saying it's a little bit more feedback than in stainless steel nibs that are stainless steel colored. As you can see, it's not super dry though, so even though it dried out a bit, I do think it's a pretty nice writer. Now what you really want to see is the line variation, and what's interesting is I've used these nibs with the cutouts, the elastic nibs, in the stainless steel version, and then they're really quite springy. This one also offers some line variation, but you have to push down fairly hard, and I think that is because of that coating, but I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. That also drained the ink. There we go. I just said "hè," that is Dutch. It also drained the ink, as you can see. Can you see? Yes, okay. Let's continue. So, sorry. I do have to honor the Dutch heritage once in a while. As you can see, nice line variation though. This really adds some nice character. Just be aware that you may have to push down a little harder because of the, again, I think because of the black coating. Okay, what else do we have? Reverse writing. For those who like such a thing. That takes this fine, not the world's finest fine, but I think a nice fine, to probably an extra fine. And it seems to be going pretty well, and it's not particularly scratchy. So if you like that, this might be a good pen to do this with. And that, as they say, is that. We need to discuss likes and dislikes. And that's what we're going to do next. What do I like? What do I not like about the Leonardo Supernova? There are a couple of things that I really like. To me, it's a comfortable writer. I find a comfortable size and shape to use. Posted, it's very pleasant to use, so I really like that. There are at this point, four different materials available that might certainly be expanded in the future. I don't know, but I would assume so. I think this, what is it, regular caramel, I think it's a nice finish. I really like the orange and black. To me it works well. So I think it's comfortable, it's attractive. I think it is fairly affordable. That's always a relative term when it comes to fountain pens, but I mean 157 euros for basically handmade pen. Don't forget you can get a 10% discount through the banner on my website at Appelboom. I think they're nice pens. I like the flat ends. I usually don't like flat tops that much, but I think in this model it works. To me it looks good. I like the dark metal, that would be ruthenium, wouldn't it? At the end of the barrel. I would love to maybe see that on top of the cap as well. I think that would look a little bit more balanced. I all think that is really, really nice. It's a cartridge converter filled pen. Cartridge converters, not everybody loves that. Some people prefer piston fillers. Well, there are piston fillers. You can get a Momento Zero Grande, for example, and then you have a piston filler. The advantage of cartridge converters I have embraced over the years is that they are so much easier to clean than piston filled pens, especially if you like to use saturated inks. It's so much easier. It saves so much time to just have a converter you can pull out. You can just flush out with a syringe of water. It's really easy. So I don't mind that. And given that this is not a 500 euro pen, I also don't feel that it should have a fancier filling system than it really does. Sorry, time for a sip of tea. Okay, now, things I don't like. There are a couple of things that I don't like so much. To me, the most pronounced of those things is the step down. I'm sorry, I'm just looking to see if everything's in focus, because sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. The step down is substantial. And if I look at it, that looks like at least a full millimeter of step down. It could be more. It's a little hard to measure because I can't put calipers in there. I guess I could do subtraction. I didn't think of that. Okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a big step down, okay? And I mean, you can fairly easily tell that. It's large and it's fairly sharp. If you want to have a cap and barrel that are completely flush like this, then that's kind of what needs to happen. So I understand where it comes from. I'm just saying it's a big step down, and I know there are going to be people who will say that's not for me. I don't like a step down that big, and I fully understand. I fully get it. Visually, it's not my favorite thing either, but I mean, when I'm writing with it, I don't really see it, and I mean, I really can't lose sleep over that. Anyway, so there is that. The section is certainly big enough to be held comfortably, and because you see the phalanx on my finger, that it doesn't even touch that step down. So I really don't have any issues with it, but aesthetically, it's also not my favorite thing. But again, then you have that nice flush cap and barrel. It's going to be one or the other. Okay, final thing I will say is the black coated nib is stiff. This is, I've already shown you that in the writing sample, this is one of the elastic nibs. I have used the regular steel, so steel colored elastic nibs, and they are really springy. This one is really stiff, so I don't know if it's this particular nib or if it's the black coating. My money is on the coating has something to do with it at least. So just be aware of that. If you purchase that, you may not get the line variation and the softness that you were hoping to get. And I think that's an important point to important point to point out. Or important part to point out. Anyway, it matters, because if you buy an elastic nib, I'm assuming you want to have a lot of line variation, and you really have to push down quite hard on this. Maybe that means the nib needs to be broken in a little bit. I don't know, but I don't want to breaking it in. So just be aware of that. That is a thing that I think is worthy of pointing out. And that's it. That gets in the way of the microphone. Sorry. So I hope this was useful. Thank you to Appelboom for lending me the pen. I really appreciate it. You may get it back at some point. And that's all there's to it. I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.